Well, if we want to go back to when I originally got involved with SafeSpace, we merely had an office above the Newport City Police. And at that time, those of us helping with SafeSpace were doing everything. We were going out to pick up victims if they called in, because at that time, the police, sheriff's departments weren't required to do that. I can tell you of a couple of occasions where I went to pick them up thinking I was totally safe doing that, but I was in Wares Valley, it had snowed, I turned left, and 100 yards later I couldn't see the road. I eventually found the woman in a mobile home, and I go in and I'm trying to get her out, and I realized, I said to her, I said, "Where is your husband?" And she went, "Oh, he could be back anytime." And I looked at that front door and realized I would have to jump off of the deck onto ice if he did show back up. But we went and picked them up frequently.
I was aware of domestic violence as someone who's done radio for almost 50 years. I remember, my first thing I remember is rule of thumb. And people don't realize where rule of thumb came from. Years ago, excuse me, it was actually legal to hit your wife with anything no bigger than your thumb. And it was accepted. Not only support, we have to educate. We ain't got to educate men. We got to educate guys, you know. My daddy told me when I was a little boy, had a woman come to church. She sang the choir with my mom, and she had all kinds of bruises, and I wondered why. And it was very hush-hush. But my daddy told me, he said, "I just want to tell you something." He told me and my brother in the car by ourselves. He said, "Any man hit a woman's a coward."
I had begun working there. I had been a volunteer for some time. So I'm in the office. At that time, we don't have a hotline per se. We answer the phone. It doesn't matter who you are. I was actually more of an office manager, whatever. And Diane Levy, the director, and I had been talking to a woman out of Sevierville for several days. We knew she was in a dangerous situation. We keep encouraging her, "You need to come to us. You need to come into shelter." We had a shelter, so I know it's after 1985. She always had one more thing she thought she had to do. We pick up the paper. Oh, gosh. She'd been shot. Her batterer had shot her in the presence of her child. It's still real.
The most memorable encounter with SafeSpace being when I was at the Sheriff's Department, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, and responding to a domestic assault scenario, and a small child was involved, playing underneath the floor of the mobile home, accessing it through a hole in the floor in the living room, and the mother had a reservation about leaving because she had nowhere to go, and her child had nowhere to go. SafeSpace showed up and advised the victim that they had shelters that were available, heated, and a bed, which moved the victim to accept the situation she was in and motivated her and provided her the strength to leave.
Personally, as an officer, I've been on domestics where they were arguing about the checkbook, and I've been on domestics where it was a murder-suicide. And so seen it from the smallest, maybe less volatile side to the most heinous side of it, and where we have loss of lives and there's children that now have neither parent. And so I guess the biggest impact that had on me was that no matter how great or small, East Tennessee, SafeSpace of East Tennessee was there every single time.
Our staff and the staff of SafeSpace work very hard for very little. And if you removed either one of us, SafeSpace or clerk staff, it would directly impact a victim's ability to access justice, and it would quagmire the general sessions system for sure.
I can't imagine what the judicial system would look like as it relates to domestic violence if SafeSpace of East Tennessee wasn't present. From being there the night of the incident and providing a safe space for these victims and their children sometimes, to being there on every time they're in court, to chasing it through the order protection hearings, to partnering with law enforcement, they're always present. And we tried to up our game by creating that SVU, that Special Victims Unit that just chases that domestic beast all day long. Our SVU, our Special Victims Unit that does that, it focuses on domestics, is gonna continue that follow-up all the way through the process. And just as SafeSpace of East Tennessee will have somebody in the courtroom, we will too. And so without them, I can't imagine the suffering or the danger that we would be placing victims in, because they would have no place to go. You got to partner with somebody who's well-versed in the game. They know exactly how to see this thing through and to protect that victim at all costs. And so, A, it's always a joy to be able to partner with somebody like that. And then B, it's inspiring. It makes you probably work harder than maybe you would in other cases, just because you can see how important it is to another resource that is just giving it all they got.
I don't see a possibility of a future without an organization like SafeSpace. So without them, it would be catastrophic. The continuing partnership with SafeSpace, I think, only continues to be stronger for the purpose of our community is growing. We're constantly building subdivisions, and SafeSpace almost is being woven into the fabric of our community as infrastructure, because I couldn't begin to imagine what it would look like. It's almost like the inverse is true, not so much what does the future look like with them, because they are very much mandatory. It would be, what would the future look like without them, and the answer is catastrophic.
But without SafeSpace, I don't know where the victims would go. I don't know how Sheriff Department, police departments, the courts could manage domestic violence without SafeSpace. We provide education. Van provides great education to all the police departments, sheriff's departments, hairdressers, anybody that desires education, social workers, and that education is important. And the more people know about what we're doing, then the more impact we have. I just can't imagine no SafeSpace. That's not us.
Without revealing identities, I've seen airline pilots and wealthy people come in that were at the very last stages, the last stage being, serious bodily injury or death, because they were afraid to have how it would look, not being in an abusive situation, but being the victim of a domestic assault, because people put on a tough person persona, and when you self-assess as a victim, the stigma is that you lose toughness, which is absolutely false, and actually shows how tough you are, because you know there's a stigma and you choose to overcome it.
One of the things I learned early on was that it takes an average of 7 times for a woman to have the heck beat out of her before she will leave, before she gets that, because the abuser holds them mentally hostage. I'll kill your dog. I'll do that. You leave me, I'll do this. And they believe them. And it takes a while. I mean, it takes courage, it takes guts.
There's so many times where Van and her staff are stretched so thin. But they've grown to be able to meet that need, and you'll find an East Tennessee SafeSpace representative in these order protections and in downstairs in court when they're having the initial hearing. So they're trying to see the victim through, and then we've added a unit to that to try to merge those two and make sure they see the process. And so, if anything, the evolution has just been finding different techniques and better ways, better funding, more funding for her and her staff and that organization. And then on top of that, I feel like she probably has more partnerships now, and that always helps with evolution when there's strength in numbers. And so from technology to staffing and to funding, I think there's a multitude of ways that she's involved, but all of them in the positive.
I think they help victims navigate the system, and navigation alone can be stressful. The last time you visited a city that you didn't live in and you needed to go to Walmart, if you tried to get there by walking and you didn't have a map, I think the map provides assistance and reduces stress, and that is what SafeSpace does for me, based off of what I see petitioners and victims interface with. It's shelter and advocacy.
They have a unique way. And so one of the programs that they did that we partnered with them on was this risk assessment. And it's just a quick Q&A with the victim that night, that day, whatever time it is at the scene, to just ask some questions. And the yes-no ratios lead to, hey, it's maybe there's less likelihood it'll reoccur, or man, you are in a really bad place right here and the likelihood of this happening again are great. How many times a victim has called back and said, that assessment was so right, and man, I was in a bad spot. I'm so thankful for that, and I'm getting out of that situation. That was SafeSpace East Tennessee. They came up with that. They came to us with it, and we were like, yeah, let's go. And so, impactful is that if you affect one victim, then you've really done a good job, but she's affected thousands and her staff. And so when something just as simple as our officers asking just a few questions in addition to our investigation can maybe open the eyes of a victim that doesn't see it because they're so close to the lethality that it's waiting around the corner possibly. So that was really impactful for us. Then lastly, SafeSpace. My gosh, if they're not there, or they're not able to grow with the growth our county would see, then victims will start to be left behind. And we need SafeSpace now more than ever. And so, donate, contribute, support in whatever way, shape, form, or fashion. Whether you're volunteering, whether you're writing a check, or whether you're partnering with them to create an additional resource for them to use for their victims and the victims' families. So. I can't think of a more worthy cause when it comes to that, because that nucleus of that family is such an important part. It's one God created, and we have to foster and do our best to protect.